This week on the Deep Leadership Podcast.
It's all about connecting as human beings authentically because the businesses don't transact. Yes, I understand it's business to business, but there are human beings in both of those business functions making those decisions. That's why personal brand and human interaction and authenticity within human interaction is the most important.
This episode is brought to you by the Salty Sailor Coffee Company, the official coffee of the Deep Leadership Podcast. Salty Sailor is a veteran-owned coffee brand on a mission to deliver premium, fresh roasted coffee while making a positive impact in the world. Their motto is drink coffee and do good, which reflects their commitment to making amazing coffee and actively supporting the military community. 10% of every order goes to the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, an organization dedicated to helping sailors, Marines, and their families in times of need. All our listeners get 10% off every order of their amazing coffee by using the discount code DEEP at checkout. So check them out at saltysailorcoffee.com. Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Tyler Mount. Tyler is the founder and CEO of the Henry Street Collective, an industry-leading branding and digital strategy agency. He is a celebrated digital strategist who has left an indelible mark on various industries from Broadway to real estate, and his unique approach to marketing by focusing on personal brand versus traditional product marketing has reshaped how businesses think about their brands. And I'm excited to have him on the show to learn from his expertise. So Tyler, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you on the show, especially to bring your expertise to the conversation about personal branding and sort of the difference between that and sort of general product branding or brand branding. But tell us a little bit about how you've got a unique history and background. How has that journey in those different industries shaped your approach to marketing?
Well, that's a that's a loaded question. I only have 30 minutes to chat with you, but I have always really tried to live an authentic life. And you will start to see that to be a trend in our conversation today, because that's what I really try to instill with my clients. I moved to New York City from small town Texas right after college. It's something that I knew I always wanted to do. There was absolutely no question that in my life from third grade that I was going to live in New York City. So I made that a reality. I had a fantastic career on Broadway as a stage manager and then as a content creator. And as I was transitioning out of Broadway and moving to my first, I'll say, big boy corporate job in, let's say, like 2016, 2017, ironically, at NBC Universal at the time, I realized that the power of personal brand, the power of who you are as an individual, will help you succeed in every single industry, period, full stop. Whether you are a company owner, whether you own a bakery, whether you are a police officer, a firefighter, focusing on your personal brand and how you showcase yourself to the world is really, really important. So through my professional career, through NBC, multiple real estate development companies, and now today to Henry Street, I have really focused on this power of personal brand. And I will tell you that I've been really fortunate to work with the leaders in many industries. My specialty really sits in surprisingly real estate. I've worked with the leaders of this industry, from Ryan Serhant to the CEO and founder of Zillow, to personally representing the CEOs of Twitter, T-Mobile, and even a sitting president. And through that time, I've learned that no matter who you are, no matter what you do, people want you to be authentic and showcase your value in what you do. And that's what I work on with my clients day in and day out. And we've seen some incredible results because of it.
Really interesting. So, because I think traditional marketing, you talk about your company and the values you bring and the values you espouse, but you're saying that we should leverage the personal brand of the leaders in a company. So, tell us how that's done, and what's that shift look like?
Absolutely. So traditionally, let's say in the 90s, early 2000s, even into the 2010s, what we focused on was the product, right? As Verizon Wireless, T-Mobile, Singular Wireless have the best network on earth. We have the best phones at the lowest price. There has been an incredible shift in consumer behavior, especially with the next generation of consumers, not even millennials, but Gen Zers, specifically being a large market share in any type of product. And what we have found is they actually care more about the people leading the company and what the company stands for and what the company represents than they do the product. Because I
Hmm.
remind everyone that for the most part, every single person I work with most likely doesn't have a unique product that you're the only place in the world you can get it. Verizon will tell you they're the best wireless carrier, but you could easily go to Sprint. You could easily go to T-Mobile or AT&T, right? The idea that there's only one company on earth that provides the service you provide is most likely a misnomer. So our job is to figure out what is the thing that differentiates us in the space, whether we're a real estate agent or we have a beauty brand or we own a bakery or we're a firefighter, right? Our job is to delineate ourselves and our skills from the oftentimes millions of other people or service providers that do that. And the only way that we can do that is by showcasing who we are authentically. And so a fantastic case study here is think about a massive organization like T-Mobile. I was really fortunate to represent John Ledger, the former CEO of T-Mobile, for a substantial amount of time. And during that time, he revolutionized T-Mobile. And he did that because he unapologetically was himself. He talked absolute trash about the competition. He didn't adhere and conform to the status quo. He said, "This is who I am. I'm going to dye my hair magenta and ride a Segway scooter around the office." And what did that do? That revolutionized the brand because people said, "Oh, he gets it. They're hip. They're with it. This isn't a dated value-based cellular provider anymore." That changed the narrative about the brand and consequently made them the most sought after the most sought after phone company arguably on earth.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You know, you've often heard it said that we don't buy from companies, we buy from people. We want to know the people behind the companies, right? And so I think, I'm a Gen Xer, so we were enamored by brands, back in the day, Kellogg's and Coca-Cola, and they had and the ads were we fell in love with the ads, Budweiser and all that sort of thing, right? So we like the ads, but I think more and more now you're saying we need to fall in love with the people behind those brands, and people want to know who they are. And so a lot of the strategies, what you're saying is like who's the person behind the brand, right? You're trying to get that out in the public so people can see, like it's like if you get an email from I don't know, like info at this some company, you're gonna delete it, right? But if it's Joe at some company, you tend to like want to read it because it sounds like there's a person behind this. Is that what part of the argument with why we've got to get the person out front and be able to show the persona or the person behind the brand?
Absolutely right. Your example of email marketing, excuse me, your example of email marketing is spot on. We know statistically, this is not my opinion, scientifically, that if you send an email from Coca-Cola,
Hmm.
the open rate is going to be significantly lower than if you sent it from Tyler, the chief product engineer of Coca-Cola.
Hmm.
Right? This is just how consumer behavior works because corporations are not people. I understand in the eye of the law, I guess they technically are considered people, but human beings want to shop with other human beings. They don't want to be sold to. And so the second we humanize the experience and the sales process, we actually are much more successful here. Think about some of the most popular consumer brands on earth. Um, Fenty, right? Fenty is one of the most popular makeup brands on earth, and it is all about Rihanna, right? Think about Kylie Cosmetics, one of the most famous makeup brands on earth, all rooted around Kylie Jenner's stardom, right? Taking that same brand and detaching these people from the brand would significantly limit their ability to sell product. And it's because of the people behind the brand who are using the brand, and consequently, what people imply the brand then stands for.
Hmm. So you bring up two quick questions I have for you. One is, does it work for B2B business as well to B2C? So you're talking a lot of consumer brands, but I wonder, like in B2B businesses, whether or not putting a person out front makes sense, or have you had experience with that?
Absolutely. I've worked with a
Yeah.
lot of B2B focused organizations, and the same thing is true. You own a business, I own a business, I specialize in B2B services. You are much more likely to transact with the company if I, Tyler, build a relationship with you, John, correct?
Hmm. Sure. Yeah.
Therefore, we are much more able and more easily able to move the needle in these scenarios. It's all about connecting as human beings authentically, because the businesses don't transact. Yes, I understand it's business to business, but there are human beings in both of those business functions making those decisions. That's why personal brand and human interaction and authenticity within human interaction is the most important.
That makes a lot of sense. I just, I didn't have it as one of my questions, but I was thinking about what you're saying is, does that introduce a level of risk? For example, Papa John, right? He was sort of like, he had a personal brand and then he kind of went off the rails, and then suddenly the brand's at risk. So they had to get rid of him. And so now they have to do a lot of work to sort of bring back who they are as a company. Is that an example of where, there's some risk associated with personal branding?
Of course, there's always risk with any business decision. Having a personal brand obviously opens up the company to liability, right? If my company, which I am the face of, hence personal brand, went off the rails, it would severely damage my company. There is no question. The same thing is true with an independent insurance broker, an independent real estate agent, a presidential candidate. The important thing to note is there's going to be risk in whatever decision you make. And I would argue, as long as you're above board and aren't an idiot, okay, with your decisions, the risk of not focusing on personal brand is far more likely and detrimental than putting yourself out front.
That makes a lot of sense. And I've got a funny question for you. What if you're not exciting and you live an adventurous life? What if you're boring and you are also the president of a company?
Yeah.
I'm pretty
So
boring. This is why I'm asking the question. I'm a pretty boring guy, right? I live a pretty quiet life. So how do I make my life exciting for people to know? If I'm being authentic, it's like, here's me being boring. How do we do that if we're not an exciting like celebrity or what have you?
right. So, I'll note that I not once said that in order to be successful at personal brand, you have to be exciting or a celebrity. I work with some celebrities, but the majority of my clients are everyday people. And personal brand always works when you are authentic, approachable, but relatable. The
Hmm.
majority of people would categorize themselves as boring. I understand it. And one of the most popular questions I get is, Tyler, I'm boring. I don't have anything to do. I don't do anything. And that is where I push back. Okay. Most people think in order to have a personal brand, you have to be a celebrity, or you have to be going to the Grammy Awards, or you have to be doing something so over the top and vacationing and on a yacht in the Hamptons. That is just not the truth, because the overwhelming 99.9% of human beings on earth do not live in that way. So showing that you are a part of everyday society and approachable and relatable and someone actually feels they can get to know, that's important. The thing that I
Hmm.
would push back for you, John, is as a fantastic case study, is the idea that you do this podcast and then you go sit in bed and don't do anything else is a misnomer. You run a company, you have books, you most likely have a family, you might like traveling and music and reading and all of the things that we as human beings love doing. You showcasing that in an authentic way, not in a way that you think is glitzy and glamorous and in a way that people want you to show up. That is really where the magic happens, and that's what we need to focus on.
Okay, so the ordinary is okay. So a picture of my golden retriever and me sitting in a Friday night having a bourbon and cigar it's authentic because that's me. It's a little bit boring, but that's my life.
I mean,
So
most people would kill for that life. I would kill to have a bourbon and a dog. and a cigar and not a care in the world. And frankly, that drives conversation. Where did you get the dog? Did you adopt? Did you buy? How long have you had the dog? What type of cigar is that? I went to Cuba and I got this. What type of humidor?
Yeah, yeah.
Notice we can actually have dialogue, and people are going to show up and in a way that's authentic to them, right? I always remind people that if you just sit silently, your tribe, the people who are meant to transact with you, will never know where to find you. And
Mm.
so showing up and being authentically who you are will allow people to follow you both literally and figuratively.
I really like this approach. I would say for me, at least, I've sort of kept those two worlds separate. So like I've got my business world that I sort of work on, and I do traditional marketing there, and I do my personal brand, which is my leadership books and things I do. And I keep the two separate. I've never really merged the two. I made some videos as I walk through the plant and give leadership lessons as I walk through my manufacturing company, but I've always kept them separate, thinking, again, I don't want to. You're saying you got to blend the two. You can't keep them separate. You should bring them together.
There is no question in my mind. You have to blend the two. The
Hmm.
idea that you are a business person or a sales monkey over here, and then you go home and you're a human being is a misnomer. You
Yeah.
are a business owner, correct?
Yeah.
You are a business leader, correct?
Yeah.
Would you say that there are millions of people in the world who want to be a successful business leader and a business owner like you? Absolutely. The goal is for you to share that experience and share that joy with other people. And that is what is really, really valuable. Even if you're quote unquote, in your words, boring and sitting on the couch on Friday night, that entire day you lived a really fantastic life that is aspirational in nature. People would die to have your career, right? And so
Yes.
by sharing that with the world, you give people access and education and inspiration are the three most important things that we can do on social.
Interesting. Very interesting. So what are some of the challenges of doing this? I think, you know, we I think we've all been trained in, traditional marketing. What's the challenge of sort of introducing the personal brand to the side to our businesses?
Well, again, you have to put yourself out there. And for a
Mm.
lot of people, they think I'm not interesting. A lot of people, they're like, I don't want to be out front. A lot of people say, well, this isn't important. And the data, both scientifically and through my significant experience in this space, would say that you're incorrect.
Mm.
And and although I understand there are different personality types, people might hate being on camera, people might hate social media. I remind them that I am sitting in the house right now that social media built. I do not like social media. I am not a social media savant in terms of I love it. I'm scrolling all day. I'm creating content all day. But I know it's a necessary evil because whenever you Google me, the first link that comes up is Instagram. The third link that comes up is my LinkedIn. And whether I like it or not, my opinion doesn't matter because before someone works with me or my company, they're Googling me. And if they
Mm.
go to an Instagram that is outdated and doesn't showcase who I am, they are never working with my company. And so, whether I like it or not, I have to be on these spaces. So, what I do is I try my very best to instill process and order so that I can be there without it inundating my life.
That makes a lot of sense. One of the things I do talk to when I talk to people that are maybe transitioning out of corporate life and getting into their own, becoming entrepreneurs and what have you. And one of the things I learned was that I was a nobody when I came out of corporate life. So I worked for 22 years in big corporations. I was a senior manager at those companies, and so I was a big deal but I was a big fish in a small pond. And when I stepped outside that world, I realized I was nobody.
Mm.
And so what I encourage people to do is own your name, that your the domain for your name. Like you should do that like right now. Everyone listening to this phone call, do you own the domain to your name? At least have a website that you built with your own personal side on it, so that you have a personal brand. So I do believe that everybody should have a personal brand, especially senior business leaders, because you never know where your journey is going to take you. You might be part of a large organization today, but you may end up being an entrepreneur like me late in your career. So would you recommend that everybody who's thinking about this or hearing this message should consider at least having a website with their name on it?
I mean, the question is a no-brainer to me. The answer is yes. My job is to ensure that the perception of the public is positive when they look at what I call your digital ecosystem. Your digital ecosystem is as simple as Googling your name.
Hmm.
And so I encourage everyone. And I know a lot of people are listening and they say, well, Tyler, I don't own a business. I work in big corporate. I don't own a business. I am a baker. Okay. I want you to imagine this. Okay. I live in New York City, arguably the most cutthroat city in the world. Okay. If not, one of the most cutthroat cities in the world. If there is one job opening for a senior manager of whatever at whatever large corporation, you have thousands of people applying to this job, all with similar experience, all with similar salary requirements. The way they make a decision is almost always by personal referral, how you make them feel in the room, and their vote of confidence in your experience. And so imagine if I am going into let's say I sold my company and I'm going in to be the CMO of an organization. And I have someone else who's competing with the same amount of experience, the same salary requirements. But when you Google me, I have the most incredible website. Videos, if you were to go look right now, videos of me hanging out with John Ledger and coaching Kevin O'Leary and working with like some of the leaders of this industry, a full list of all the podcasts I've done, a full list of all of the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and the Forbes articles I've done, a full speaker reel, experience galore, and a really epic bio. Against the other person who you can't find online, they are almost always going to choose me. And what is the difference in our experience? Nothing. The only difference is I marketed myself and I said, I am the best. And so therefore it is true until I prove myself wrong. And so that is why a personal website, no matter who you are, business owner or not, is so incredibly important because it makes you more competitive in a highly saturated market.
Yeah, I think it's a calling card these days. I mean, what used to be you have a business card, but I think you need to have a website as a place where people find you and find who you're, what you're all about. Even if, again, you don't own a business, but I think, yeah, again, I think you said we're always in competition. So and I know, for example, if I'm going to meet with somebody I've never known before, I'll look them up. I'll try to figure out who they are. And so when I do find somebody that I can't find anything about, is always like a little like, I'm going into a meeting sort of blind and like, who is this person, and so, but when I get a chance where I can see video content, oh, this is a speech this person gave, or this is, what they're involved with. It's like you find those. I always try to find the areas that we have in common so I can build that rapport early on when I meet somebody. And so it's really hard when I find somebody with no digital footprint. I'm always like, okay, who is this guy? What am
Yeah.
I dealing with here? It's
And if you think about it, John, we do this as consumers every day. How
mm,
many times have you chosen a restaurant based on a Google review? How many times have you chosen a restaurant based on the photos on the website? How many times have you said, we're not going to this restaurant because the photos don't look good, or there is no website, or the website looks outdated? Everyone listening has absolutely made a decision based on an online ecosystem.
mm.
Yet, we oftentimes think that we are the exception, that consumers magically wouldn't do that when they want to work with us. And that is absolute insanity. My job is to control my ecosystem and all of my clients' ecosystem, just like a restaurant. So whenever someone goes and says, is this person a quality service provider? No matter who you are, no matter what you do, the answer needs to be yes. Because I always say the golden rule of marketing, specifically personal brand, is that consumer perception is truth, not factually accurate. But if you can make someone perceive that you are the best, again, you are the best until you prove them otherwise.
I love that. I love that. So, how does Henry Street Creative support businesses in helping to tell their stories authentically? You keep talking about authentic stories. How do you help them find that authentic story
Yeah.
to
So,
tell?
you know, a lot of the work we do is unlearning. The most toxic word I hear day in and day out is the word should.
Hmm.
Oh, well, I'm doing this because I should. I'm doing this because business owners should do this or act this way or dress this way or carry themselves this way. And I said, who says that?
Mm.
right? There is no rule book. And for every rule you tell me, I could find you the exception to the rule. That's the beautiful thing about life, right? And so it's a lot of unlearning and it's a lot of testing and showing them that the world didn't fall apart. The same way a psychiatrist or a psychologist does cognitive behavior therapy or does immersive therapy, right? You're really scared of, let's say, flying. Okay. I wouldn't recommend this, but like a psychiatrist could just like throw you on a plane and take you up and take you down and realize like, oh, you actually didn't die. Right. And so what we do a lot of the times is, let's say I have a high earning professional who's like, I feel really stuffy. I feel like I'm not being myself. I'm much more casual, but I have to wear a suit in every board meeting because that's what CEOs should do. And I say, who says that?
Mm.
Right? That is antiquated. Think of like some of the most prolific entrepreneurs in today's world, like the Gary V's of the world. Gary, you couldn't pay him to wear a suit into a board meeting. And he is the shining example of authenticity. He's the gold standard here. If you don't want to work with Gary because he doesn't wear a suit in the meeting, you are an idiot because the man is a genius and he doesn't care about your business. Right. And when I say about your business, he obviously has an invested stake if you work with him. But if you're going to say that you're not going to work with him because he doesn't wear a suit, he will tell you that's totally cool. Go to someone who wears a suit. I'm not the right person for you. And
Mm.
so that is what I do with a lot of my clients. It's a lot of unlearning and testing and showing them like, oh, wait, the business didn't fail because you didn't wear that suit. You still got the listing for your real estate client from your real estate client, even though you didn't wear a suit because you showed up and your experience and your marketing speaks for itself. So ironically, it's a lot of not doing as much as it is doing.
It's interesting you say that because that's one of my hangups with it too, because I run a manufacturing company. So I literally wear jeans, a t-shirt, and boots to work every day. So, I don't look like a typical business owner because of the nature of what I do. And so I want to be casual. I want to be dressed the same way my workers are because I'm spending time out on the shop floor where they are. Because that's to me, that's authentic leadership is to be where your people are in a way that show up authentically. So it's interesting. So that is a bit of a hang up for me. Like, oh, I don't look like the captain of industry. I look like a guy who works in a plant. Well, I do work in a plant. It's my plant,
Bingo.
but it is a plant. So yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
that's so powerful because I guarantee you, knowing very little about your interaction with your workers, they respect someone who shows up and is with them versus, hey, everyone, come in your boots and jeans and come into this meeting and I'm going to wear a suit because I'm better, right?
Yeah,
Because I'm
yeah.
at a different scale or a different level, right? You could show up that way because that's what quote unquote bosses should do. But
Mm.
you showing up authentically actually earns you and garners you more respect.
That makes a lot of sense. It really does. And so these things are connected. So the way you lead authentically in you're saying is similar to how you portray yourself authentically, is being your authentic self. And so not trying to pretend to be, look at me, look at all these great things I'm doing. It's just your authentic life and sharing that authentically with others so that they understand who you are as a person and how that affects how your brand is operated, right? So that does make a lot of sense. So how do you measure success or the success of personal branding?
Yeah. So it's a long tail answer.
Okay.
The success of personal brand is all really measured in brand equity. And brand equity is quite difficult to measure.
Mm.
And why this is an important note is because people come to us and say, okay, I'm ready to change. Do you think we can make progress in the next 2 weeks? My answer is absolutely not. Right? Social media, showing up authentically, building your brand equity takes a considerable amount of time. But just like going to the gym, you don't get abs overnight, and you're going to wish in a year and a half you had gone to the gym this entire time,
Yeah.
right? The same thing is true with personal brand. And so everyone's goals and KPIs vary business to business, personal to person. I have a lot of clients who are like, I already make enough money. Me making X number of more dollars won't really change my quality of life at all. I want to do more good. I want to be known in this new circle. I want to launch this new business. So, although the goals very dramatically industry to industry, business to business, and person to person. What we really do to track personal brand is the overarching brand equity and awareness to the organization or the individual.
Makes a lot of sense. It really does. Well, this has been fantastic, Tyler. I think you've given us a lot to think about. I think and you've given me personally a lot of things to think about too, as far as like, how do I connect these two together? And I probably need to be thinking about that a little bit more. What final message would you like to leave with our listeners at this point?
Well, I always say that my commanding message in business is the idea that lighting someone else's candle does not extinguish my own. Me helping someone does not limit my ability to be successful. In an industry and in a world that is so competitive, I firmly believe, and I've seen this with my own eyes, that there's enough time, energy, resources, and most importantly, money for us all to build our own empires. Because at the end of the day, I want to remind everyone that what you do, specifically your job function, probably isn't that unique. There are many industries, right? There are many providers within those industries. It is, how do you make someone feel when they're in the room? So being kind and being generous and being gracious, in my opinion and experience, will always be more fruitful than being cutthroat and competitive, because they can choose from many providers. It's the person they want to see day in and day out that they're ultimately going to choose.
Wow, that's a powerful message. And again, leaders, if you're hearing this message and you're saying, well, there's a lot of similarities to being a great leader as well. And this idea of being, there to help others, lift others up, and to be, number one in our business is treating everyone with respect. That's our number one expectation from our employees. We treat everyone with respect. And you're saying that that's a great way to live our life, and you're actually going to be better off in your company, in your personal life, if you take that mantra to heart, is that treat everybody with respect regardless of where they're at, and people want to do business with people like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. This has been great, Tyler. How can our listeners find out more about you and your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking on that topic of lighting someone else's candle, I made it my mission to say, how many businesses can I positively impact? I'm not talking about paying customers, I'm talking about businesses I impact. And so what I've done is something really non-traditional, and my sales coach thinks I'm insane for doing this. But I have a team that is dedicated to giving no catch, no IOUs, free business audits and free digital audits to literally anyone who signs up on my website. There is no catch, there is no IOU, there is no timeshare offer at the end of it. So I would love anyone listening to go to tylergmount.com. That's TYLERGMOUNT.com. Sign up for a free 30-minute consultation. One of my expert strategists on my team will walk you through your existing ecosystem, from social to your website, to your visual identity, to your newsletters, to anything that you're currently doing, or more importantly, not doing in the ecosystem, that we can affect change on literally today to change the trajectory of your business. And my philosophy is simple. If me or someone from my team spending 30 minutes with you changes the trajectory of your life and we get nothing out of it, no money, nothing, that is time well spent. And so I say that anytime I public speak, I say that anytime I go on a podcast, and we give about 20 free audits a week. And again, you can call anyone who's done them. There is no catch. So I encourage everyone to go to tylergmount.com, sign up for a personal brand audit. You're going to get a live strategist from New York City who's done this for a living for over a decade, walk you through your ecosystem and give you some really clear pointers about how to take it to the next level.
Fantastic. And we love on the show, we love free things. So we're giving you another free resource here, and it relates to what we've been talking about, which is personal branding, your company branding. And again, you've got an expert here that wants to help you get better. And so we have the links to all of Tyler's resources down here in the show notes. I highly recommend you click that on there and do that free audit if you want to understand how you can get better in your company, how you can become, build that personal brand connected to your own, your company's brand. You can be authentic. I think Tyler has given us a lot to think about, and his team can help you get better. Tyler, I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing all of your knowledge on this really important topic.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it, John.
Thanks again. Well, that is it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.